If you have watched some of my videos before, you probably are familiar with either Marty Cagan, Olsen, or some of these other very famous product people out there. They typically tell us how modern tech companies work, how the most successful companies in Silicon Valley or other very advanced tech hubs are working. These insights that they bring are really great, but the reality is that these insights and these ways of working are probably out of reach for most of the software companies out there. So let's talk today about the realities and the challenges that most of the companies, the software companies out there, especially in the B2B market, which is the area that I know, are facing. I would say that probably around 80 to 90% of the companies are facing these kind of realities, probably on a daily basis. So today, let's talk about some of the most important topics that some of these product gurus are talking about and how are they really reflected in the life of a normal or a regular product company. First of all is ownership. One of the things that most of the product gurus are talking about, and I'm not a product guru, but I've been talking about quite many times, is ownership. The reality is that ownership is not something that happens easily. It's not something that happens so much and to the degree that you think it should happen in the companies. We think that the product managers, like the mini CEO of the product, the reality is that is very far from that. And the reality is that your ownership on the roadmap is at best questionable. You have an ownership on the understanding what are the different opportunities and trying to understand which ones are the most important ones for your products. But you are probably very dependent on what your management team might be thinking, what your leadership team might be thinking, what potentially are their opinions or their strategies. And also, in some cases, even you are depending on, for example, the biggest and latest sales case that is going on. We need to close a quarter. There is a big opportunity of selling a new product. If we promise that we put this new item in the roadmap, we will seal the deal. What happens next? Well, you know, in many cases, this new feature will end up in your roadmap. And as much as we hear that these are one-offs, in reality, we know that they are not one-offs and they tend to happen again and again. The second reality that we see in regular tech companies is that team management and recruitment, although it is said to be a priority, in reality is that in many cases is not. Team management in many cases is more like you are the boss of a team and you tell them what to do. But you are not there to coach them, to help them develop, to help them grow in their careers. That should be your goal. That should be. And this is what they are talking about. And I really agree what they are telling. And I really agree that as a leader, that's my role. My role is to help my team to succeed. If my team succeeds, the business succeeds. The best tools that I have for me to help my team succeed is to help them grow, to help them develop, to help them do their job better, and to help them have the time to do their job. So there's also a level of protection that you had to do with the team so they actually have the time and they are not all the time distracted by other things or interrupted by other things that are at certain points noise. And although at certain points they might be important to hear, they might not be something that they had to hear all the time. The reality is that in most of the cases, what I've seen with many of the team leads is that, well, basically job is moved from hand to hand and it just then ends up in the product manager's role or whoever it is. And there is no really trying to grow people's career. There's no goals of trying to help people develop in their career, or there is very little effort put there. It's very little effort to help them to have better operations, to have better ways of working, to help them to do their job more efficiently. And the same goes for recruitment. Recruitment many times by many people is seen as an annoyance, something that they had to do. Okay, I had to recruit now 3 people. I had to be booking time. I just don't have the time. Then they show up. They are very little prepared. Then most of the process is vague and there is not a real understanding of what the other person is offering or what we need or explaining how we work to see if these people are a good match for our organization. The other one that it's something that many times I have heard Marty Cagan say is that product teams should be handed over problems. And problems that they had to understand, they had to solve, they had to find and work together to actually build a solution to that problem. The reality is that in many cases, product teams are not handed problems. They are handed strategies in the best cases, and in most cases, they are told specifically what to do. We need to support certain regulation to go into a new market or a new country or whatnot, instead of actually letting the team know or understand and study if this is something that they need to do, and if they need to do, what's the best way to do it. Many times this work is handed over. This problem is just basically not a problem, it's a solution. You can see it very well on what many times is the feedback that comes from like the different teams. Usually you get a checklist or a wish list of things that the customers would like to see in the product, meaning they're jumping directly into solutions and they're skipping talking about the problems. The product trio, I've seen it very few times work. I have built them in several companies, and the reality is that in most of the companies, when I enter the company, there's usually not a product trio that is working together. In some cases that has been, and that has been great news to see and great to see that that collaboration is there. The reality is that yes, I truly believe what they say, that a product manager, a product designer, a tech lead, they should be working together to build solutions, to define the scope of work, to understand that this is an opportunity that we should be taking, and to discover it together, to really analyze and understand that this is a good business opportunity. Can we do it in a way that customers will love it? And is this feasible for us to tackle? This team should work together. This team should be very closely working in a daily basis. The reality is that what happens is that product managers are working with product managers and belonging to a product management team. The same for product designers and the same for team leads. So if you have several products, basically what happens is that these people are meeting together, all the product managers, in a weekly basis, in a daily basis. Then all the product designers are meeting on a daily basis maybe. And the same goes for all the engineers. But these people meeting together, working together, often happens very rarely. That is a sign of a company that is working in silos and a company that is not building product trios, that is not building product teams. A product team is the team that is responsible for the success of the product. And a product team should have people like product managers, product designers, team leads. Of course, there's more people, development teams, there's marketing teams, potentially there's even sales teams. One of the other aspects very commonly mentioned by the different product gurus is that you have to spend a ton of time either doing discovery or in execution. The reality is that when you see the calendars of most of the people are there, very often 40 to 60% of the calendar is full and packed with meetings. This means that the people are going to have little time to do other work. This is a problem on itself. Meetings and trying to solve everything through meetings and trying to call weekly meetings, daily meetings to make sure that we have alignment. In reality, those meetings end up being reporting meetings of things that could be actually asynchronously be aligned. So have a Teams channel or have a Slack channel where you are actually updating and everybody can see what you're working and see how things are progressing. These are not meetings that have to be scheduled. Because when you schedule them, you tend to use all the time to just talk and discuss, and then there's little work happening where many of these things could happen asynchronously, which would save time and actually let the different teams, the different people work and focus in the work. And there's things like change of context. When you are switching context very often from team to meeting, from meeting to work to, again, another meeting half an hour later, when you have so many context switch, the reality is that your brain is not getting focused all the time and you are not being able to really actually work on what you many times should be working. So is Marty Cagan, is Dan Olsen, are they lying to you? Well, in reality, I don't think that they're lying. They're talking about what the ideal is. The reality is that that ideal is very far for most of the companies. It's not achievable. This is like somebody, if you want to learn how to swim and you go to the latest person that has won the Olympics in swimming, they are really far from you. They are really very advanced. Even if they become a coach, they will be a very good coach for people that want to really go those last stages to be not just a professional, but somebody that's already a professional that is fully dedicated to this and really get them to be one of the best among the world, in the whole world. When you are in the beginning of your journey, you might know barely what product management is. The reality is the messaging that they are giving, it's just for this, top, let's call it 10%, 15%. It's a guess. But if you are in the rest of the percentage, in the rest of the 85%, let's say, and you are not in the very top to make that jump, you're not ready for that message. And that's the problem with how many times what we talk in these channels is not necessarily the best way to help you improve, the best way to help you develop in your career, develop in your processes if you're a company or if you're a product leader and you want your team to get better. So you could say that Juan, you're doing the same as they are doing in a way. You are talking also about this ideal way of working. And yeah, you could be right. And you could be saying that I've been lying. I definitely has not been intentional. But I have been thinking about this. And I think I really have come to a realization that I want to make it more practical from here on about the type of content that I would talk about. I will still talk about the ideal ways of working and what to strive for, because I think that having a vision is always important. I think that it's always important to, even if you are learning to swim, you might want to be that next Phelps. I don't remember his name. Anyways, the very good swimmer from the US. You might want to be that person. You might want that new champion in the future, even if you are starting in your journey. It's great to have a vision, but you have to have achievable goals. If your goal is too high, it's very difficult to reach in a short term. So you have to have smaller step intervals, smaller goals that will help you advance, that will help you improve, that will help you get better at your career, at your swimming, if you want to. This is why I'm going to be trying to focus on that and trying to help you develop your ways of working for things that probably are a bit far from those high visions. I will still do every now and then the high vision because I think that is a good balance, because it's good to remind ourselves about what the vision is, what the goal potentially in the end is. And maybe the goal is not necessarily to reach that vision sentence. As they say, the best part of a journey is not destination, but the journey on itself. So let's go enjoy the journey. Let me know in the comments below, what are the areas that you think where I could help you develop, and do it in a way that is satisfying, that you're achieving goals, and that you see that you are progressing and that you're improving in the ways of working. So I had nothing personal against Marty Cagan, Dan Olsen. I will continue watching their videos anytime that they talk. I will try to catch up with what they're doing, understand what their thoughts are, because I think that they're really very influential people and that they have very sound and good advice. If you're interested in building a newsletter where I'm helping you to transform the way that you are working, I'm helping going through this journey, it is free. You just have to subscribe. Go to the link down below, take a look. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you want to hear more about these topics, about product management and about developing software products. I will see you in the next one. Remember, stay safe.